Hello and welcome. To support World Lymphedema Day and Lymphoedema Awareness Week, I ask 5 members of Lymphoedema United to explain the effect of the disease has on them and provide a top tip as to how we can all live better with lymphedema. Now, today's guest is Tom. His swelling came out of nowhere, showing in his left leg in 2019. It took numerous tests and consultations over 6 months before Tom received his diagnosis of primary lymphedema. Tom shares his frank and honest story on the Meet the Members page of the Lymphoedema website. Using his situation to help others, Tom is now responsible for the Facebook group Lymphoedema Sufferers UK, where people can connect with others in the same position, sharing experiences and tips. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Tom. So Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. So question 1, Tom, is how does living with lymphedema affect your life?
Well, it's funny now, sort of looking back on how life was before you sort of take for granted how easy, I guess, life was, because, day-to-day activities now, consist of, I don't know, say, washing compression, putting them on, ordering of stuff like, skin glue and things like that. It's funny how you sort of take these things in your stride as you go on further, but yeah, day to day, I still think I'd still describe it as a struggle in its own way, because you do realize you're living with a chronic condition. And I think on the most part, some of us manage to hide it quite well, even though inside we're probably feeling quite possibly overwhelmed by it, even now, even a few years down the line. Because I don't think I think for most of us, there's a decision that you don't make a decision about your day-to-day life without thinking about how it's going to affect your affected area of lymphedema. And, I consider myself fortunate for what it's worth, that it only kind of affects one area of my body. And I know there are people who have it in multiple areas, and I can't, I can only imagine what that's like to deal with. But yeah, it could be the weather's too hot, the weather's too cold. What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? How is that going to affect me in having a flare up or anything like that? So I think now, a few years down, even though I consider it part of day to day, once you start explaining it to people who don't deal with it, I think they don't realize how much is actually involved and just how much of your day it really takes up. And especially when you explain to people, it happened recently, I suppose, I got out of the car to meet some friends, and I had shorts on at the time. And anyone who has this condition, who has to wear compression, when you're wearing either a t-shirt or shorts for the first time in front of people and they'll see what you're wearing, all the questions come flooding out. And I don't mind, I appreciate it, I'm quite used to it now, but even something as putting on shorts for the first time was incredibly overwhelming, I think. And even now, you can't help but get the odd stare off people, and I expect it now, because what can you do? People have questions, and if anything, it's a good time to educate people about what we have. And in most cases, they've not really ever heard of it. So in some ways, we increase awareness every single day. So I think that's quite a good thing.
I think it is a very brave decision to make. And I understand that, Tom. I hid mine away for 10 years. And then I was actually persuaded by a fellow Lymphy at our golf day, for goodness sake, Matt, you've written a book, you've done a website, show your leg off, wear shorts in public. And you're right. And I took that step, and it was quite liberating. And I didn't get the stares that I thought I would. It has created a few questions, and you're right. It enables us then to educate others and raise awareness of lymphedema. So well done, you.
Thank you.
Joining the shorts clan. So, you're not allowed this one for your top tip. So question number 2 is, what top tip would you give others to live better with lymphedema?
I think for me, it comes down to being quite reliable with your self-care. again, we know it's for some of us can be quite time consuming, and again, overwhelming part of your day, especially if you've had a long day and you think the last thing you want to be doing is, you're either using a compression pump or you're dry brushing or moisturizing, whatever it has to be. But I think keeping on top of these things and these sort of regimens you have in place is the one thing that's going to keep you from going down any bad paths with regards to conditions like cellulitis and stuff. And I'm not perfect, none of us are. Sometimes you just have those days where you don't want to, because you just want to have a normal day for once. But and that's fine. Skipping the odd day here and there is not going to be a bad thing. But yeah, absolutely, self-care and being strict in your sort of regimen with it is the one thing is my top tip for most people.
Yeah, and wise words. I think you're absolutely right. We've all had the odd day here or there where I've not worn my stocking overnight, and it's quite liberating and it's quite nice. But yeah, it's just keeping the routine up every day and it becoming habitual, I think.
Absolutely.
And self-care, self-management, self-love. We've heard those things mentioned and sort of rammed down our throats from our therapists. Look after yourself, self-manage.
Yeah.
So it's very important, Tom. So thank you for sharing that with me and our audience. And it's very brave. Not many men are willing to come on and talk. So I'd just like to thank Tom for doing this. And to read Tom's full story, as I mentioned earlier, sign up as a member of Lymphoedema United free of charge and visit his page on our Meet the Members section. So the website again, www.lymphoedemaunited.com. Tom, it's been a pleasure. Happy Lymphedema Awareness Week, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you very much, Matt.